We're going to call the meeting to order.
It's in my building.
Okay.
Call me.
Welcome guests and visitors. We will first do a swearing in of a new planning board member, Josh Knopp, at this time.
If I could ask Josh to come up and stand right at this microphone. And Josh, my name is Myra Hurd. I'm the city clerk for the city of Salisbury. And if you'll just place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your name,
I, Josh Knopp,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of North Carolina,
of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
as a member of the Salisbury Planning Board
as a member of the Salisbury Planning Board
of the city of Salisbury, North Carolina.
of the city of Salisbury, North Carolina.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Thank you for serving. And if I could ask you to sign this oath for our file. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, Josh, to the planning board on behalf of all of us. Thank you for agreeing to serve.
Thank you, Myra. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Myra. At this time, we will have the adoption of the agenda. I believe that everyone has received this in advance. Are there any suggestions or modifications before we adopt?
Move we approve as presented.
Staff actually would ask if you don't mind, based on the fact that we're going to... Sorry about that. One of those days. If you wouldn't mind moving the committee assignments for 2012 and 2013 up underneath new business or after new business, so that when we do the committee assignment to begin the investigation of the Southern 95 Corridor Plan, we will have already had the committees in place. Do you mind doing that?
No, I don't have any objection. Do you want
As
to?
amended.
Thank you.
Amended?
Thank you.
So we have second. Thank you. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No? Okay. We have approved. So we will move it to under new business. At this time, we will approve the minutes of the March 27th, 2012 meeting. I believe everyone has those. Are there any corrections or additions?
It's a minor correction, but Dan Mickelson was also here for with staff. We mentioned Diana and Joe, but Dan was also here.
Thank you. Okay. And do I hear a motion to approve as amended?
Make a motion to approve as amended.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
If you'll just.
I'll second. Didn't hear him.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of approving as amended, aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, no. Okay. It is approved. Okay. Under new business, we will now discuss the committee assignments for 2012-2013. Preston, would you do that?
We can do that now, sure. And I apologize if I made that more confusing than it needed to be. But the committee assignments are actually done by you, Madam Chair. But what staff typically does is we just help you by making recommendations. We know you all have a lot on your plate. And so what you have in your packet here is the recommended assignments for committees 1, 2, 3, and then the Special and Transportation Committee. Committee 1 would be chaired by Ms. Ricks, with David being the vice chair, and then Will and Karen on Committee 1. 2 would be chaired by Mr. Lynch, and then Herman Felton would be vice chair with Dick and Thomasina also on Committee 2. And then Committee 3 would be chaired by Carl, with Bill as the vice chair, and then Josh rounding out Committee 3. We still have a vacant spot on Committee 3. The Special and Transportation Committee, that would be chaired by Bill and vice chaired by Will Hasselman, with Josh and Herman added as well. So this is not a vote. This would be strictly a chair decision. So if you're okay with those committees.
I
Could you
believe that,
review-
okay, excuse me, I believe this is the last iteration that I received. We had about 3 different versions, so this is the one that
This should be the.
yes, the last one.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So I do approve of it.
Okay. Did you have a question? I didn't know if.
Yeah, could you just review what issues each committee is currently handling, if any?
Yes, Committee 3, well, Committee 1, which was chaired by Karen, is what was handling the open space study. Committee 3, chaired by, I believe that was chaired by Bill, was what was handling the use matrix study. And that was it for now. And then Committee 1, I believe, well, it wasn't technically Committee 1, it was an ad hoc committee that was convened for Dan's CTP discussion. Based on, I wasn't here for that planning board meeting, but Diana had said that there was an ad hoc committee that was put together for Dan's CTP discussion. So Committee 1 at this time is the only one doing open space, and then 3 is handling use matrix. 2 and Special Transportation Committee are not being utilized at this time.
Thank you.
Okay, then is everyone happy with where they're assigned at this point? Do we need to vote on this, or?
We do not. This
just-
is strictly up to
okay.
you. So, Madam Chair, if you're okay with that, then those would be the assignments for the next year.
Okay, I am, so.
Okay, thank
we'll
you.
move. Okay, we will begin now a staff presentation.
Yes, thank you. This would be for, we just have one rezoning on today's agenda. This is LDOZ 02-2012. And I'll get started on the presentation here. I don't believe we have anybody in the audience who would be speaking on this, so the planning board is not obligated to hold a courtesy hearing. The courtesy hearing is simply there if you want to have it in your, or according to your rules of procedure. But we will move forward with the presentation. This is a rezoning of the Wilco Hess gas station at 827 West Jake Alexander Boulevard. Currently, it is split zoned between CMX and highway business. We are asking for it to be zoned entirely highway business. Let's take a look at the petition area. You can see it is located here along the west margin of Jake Alexander Boulevard, which runs north and south in this photograph. It is across the street from the YMCA, from the Hurley YMCA, which I think everybody's familiar with. We'll take a look at the zoning. Here you can see the split zoning characteristic of the site. Everything in the dark red or in the southwest corner of the site is HB. Everything in this kind of lighter red color is CMX. The idea is to basically remove the CMX portion and have the entire site be zoned HB, highway business. This is just a street view of the site. Again, I think everybody is very familiar with this gas station and this surrounding area. In terms of LDO provisions that would be applicable if rezoned to highway business, those have been provided to you in your staff report. Permitted uses, the use on the ground now, that being a gas station and convenience store, is a by right use within the highway business and the CMX, but it would certainly be so in the highway business. The commercial building type is okay in the highway business. Recreational open space does not apply. Landscaping would only kick in if they made significant improvements or changes to the site. This rezoning, the reason why I have signage highlighted is because they have actually come to the Development Services Office asking to replace their existing ground sign. They fell under the old code, which their old zoning district lined up with the highway business zoning district and allowed for a 100-square-foot sign. They have a 100-square-foot sign out there now. They're asking to replace this because, as you know, most gas stations are going to the digital readout for the gas price element of the sign. And since the parcel is split zoned, the CMX would not allow them to replace the sign from the current size to the same size of 100 square feet. It is considered non-conforming right now because of the split zoning situation. And let me back up for 1 second. Even with the conversion map that we went through with the adoption of the land development ordinance back in 2008, I really honestly don't know why this dip in the CMX occurred, because this site has been developed for a number of years. And so I don't, and typically when you have split zoning problems like this, it's because it follows old parcel lines. Now, this may still be following an old parcel line, but this should have been cleaned up long before the PO was adopted, so I don't know how this slipped through. But again, we were dealing with 16,000 parcels at the time, so this must have just slipped through. But the property needs to be zoned highway business for them to be able to replace the 100-square-foot sign with another 100-square-foot sign. Staff recommends that the petition is not inconsistent with the Vision 2020 plan because there are no applicable policies addressing this particular situation. This is clearly a commercial corridor, West Jake is. It has been developed as such, and we believe that the highway business zoning is consistent with the development and the character of the area. So we recommend approval of rezoning this site from a split zoning situation to zoning the site entirely to highway business. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Then do I hear a motion?
And any motion would need to state that whether or not the petition is or is not inconsistent with the 2020 plan.
I would make a motion that the Planning Board find that this recommendation is not inconsistent with the Vision 2020 plan, and thereby we recommend approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor, aye.
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 All those opposed, no. Okay. It is approved unanimously. So we will move to committee business. Committee reports. Under Committee 1, we met with Dan Mickelson in regard to the transportation plan. And we had a discussion of particularly one area, and that was the recommendation of whether or not to have the Ellis Street named as a minor thoroughfare. And I think I had to leave that meeting, so I don't know where that ended that day. But since then, there has been a public hearing to accept other comments on it that we're going to go straight to Dan. And I did meet with them as well and express the same thing. So I think that there is also some neighborhoods that are also making their comments. So I don't know if Dan has a report or has given you anything to update us as to where it is now.
He has not. He did make a presentation at the last city council meeting regarding the planning board presentation and some of the comments that were made. And then there is a period of time where the public can provide insight. And so or input into the recommendations, and we're in that time period right now. So we're just waiting for that to come to an end, and then we will compile all the information we've received, and then I will get with Dan, and I'm sure we will report back to this board prior to reporting to City Council.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other committees reports? I don't think we're working on anything.
Not
else.
at this time.
Okay.
I don't believe the other two have been working.
Then we want to discuss the committee assignment to begin investigation of Southern I-85 corridor plan. Do you have any specific information that you want to share right now?
I actually do not have specific information that I want to share. Really, what I could do is offer you the information or the exact wording of your goal. Right. Thank you. But basically, what we need to do is ask for either Committee 2 or the Special and Transportation Committee to begin investigation of the I-85 corridor plan. And what that would entail would be, let me go here, 2012, 2013. There we go. Investigating the development of a Southern I-85 corridor plan, where we would be determining the budget, geographical parameters established, and then necessary partnerships identified. So what we would do is this committee would begin tackling those 3 items from here until July. And there may be some bleed over, and you all expected that, and so that's why the next steps in the 2012-2013 goals are basically follow-up to these first 3. But basically, again, it would be determining funding that would be needed, geographical parameters, exactly how far down 85 do we want to go? Do we go as far as China Grove, and then how far east and west do we go, basically? So those would be some of the questions, and then once you really begin to define the geographical parameters, that really helps to define the necessary partnerships.
Do you have a preference in terms of which committee would be more appropriate? I know that Bill has been really involved in pressing for this, so he is chair of the Special and Transportation Committee. So for that reason, I would think that it could go under that committee, unless you have a compelling reason not to.
No, certainly staff does not.
Okay.
But you are right, he had.
That'd be my recommendation to the chair, since, for 2 reasons. Neither Ben nor Herman are here on Committee 2, but secondly, I think Bill's got a little bit more experience in that area and
I agree.
might make
Understand.
better fit.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to offer one thought. I know that this project is going to take a couple of years or so. I mean, roughly, we're into some vein like that. And so I simply offer to say, one, I'd gladly chair that, since I have been an advocate for this. But it may be Herman's not here and Will's not here, and Josh is brand new. So I'll simply throw out, and maybe as a courtesy, to say, since this isn't one of those one and done committee you meet for a month or 2 and then you're through and you're back and that's an end of a case, this is going to go for a while. And so the commitment to it, I'd hate to say that. In other words, I guess what I'm saying is, if instead you'd wish to set up a committee for this project that's none of these, that was made up of folks who really wanted to be there and knew that it was going to take a good while, then that's an alternative to a standing committee, if you wish. And I simply thought, and I'll gladly chair it either way you wish. It's just a matter of who participates, how enthusiastic are they,
and it's a long
long-term project. Exactly.
I think that's a good idea, but you would be willing to chair such a committee.
Whether
So
it's,
then,
yeah.
what is the protocol for that happening
I
then?
just think it's an idea.
Typically, you would have 4 or 5. You could never have more than 5 members, because then you'd be skirting on having a quorum for the entire planning board. So typically, you would have 4 or 5 members, and basically the way that your rules of procedure call for the chair to call meetings are as follows. Committees may be assigned for different functions. General purpose of basically your rules of procedure for the planning board are that if you don't use a standing committee, you, the planning board chair, have the authority to appoint an ad hoc committee, similar to what you did for the CTP.
Okay.
But I would appoint 4 or 5 members.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, one thing that I would have to admit, though, is that given, I think, Josh, is Josh ETJ?
Yes.
And you're out Old Concord Road? That's in this
That would
planning
be
area.
Right,
And is
going to
an
suggest
architectural architect.
right.
So I'll have to admit, that trumps being new.
Right.
And to this
Well-
process, and I would.
Can you pull your mic back in front of you?
I'm sorry, I would welcome Josh being there, because this
Well, I was
right
going to
into the
suggest,
geography where he lives in ETJ, and that's what we're talking about a lot of. That might be.
would
a
you
good
be
thing.
willing to do that?
I'd be
John?
more than willing to do that,
Okay,
yes.
that's great. So we have 2. Are there any other members here today that would want to volunteer? Okay, Carl would like to volunteer. Then we
I
have.
would love to see 5, just because
Okay.
any given meeting, 1 or 2 might not, and we really need sure we got participation.
What I would like to do is kind of poll the people that aren't here today and find out who else.
I'd love to serve on that.
You would like to serve, okay. Thomasina would be then the 3rd or 4th, actually. So we need 1 more. I was thinking of David Post as being one of the members. So I will talk with him. If you all don't have any objection to that, then he could be our 5th for that committee. Okay?
I can say that if you do end up with a committee of Bill and Josh and Thomasina and Carl and David, that could really work well, because nobody is scheduled to be term limited anytime soon.
Okay, so that would be
that could work well.
Okay. And then what I'm thinking is that since we're taking from committee 3 people, we could put Herman and Will on committee 3 and figure out, who else could serve on that one when something comes up. Because right now we don't have anything assigned for 3.
Oh, are you basically?
Because I'm really thinking that the appropriate thing to do, since we have one that's called Special and Transportation Committee, that we just let this fall under that committee instead of having another ad hoc. I mean, it is special, it's for a specific duration. It is going to definitely be in relationship to transportation.
Without a doubt.
And it is special. So I think that's what we should do, is just move them around.
But what does that do for having the study of the I-85 corridor? I mean, I think that.
That's
a
what we're
special-
talking about, like
I think.
putting I-85 corridor under this.
Special,
Yes.
except I'm saying, to me, since it is an ongoing and a longer project, that it be separated or even above what one would put under a special, because under a special, I may be incorrect, but there might be several other things that come along that are short-term that would be considered special. So I was thinking that with the other I-85 corridor and the longevity of it.
I
that
think
maybe-
that's a good point. I was actually thinking that a more short-term assignment might be appropriate for an ad hoc committee, and we could name it. Whereas this one would be ongoing as a standing,
too. With
and
the-
it's a multi-year commitment too. We're probably thinking at least of it being for 2 to 3 years when we talked about it. Would you agree with that, Thomasina, that we could do, if we come up with another special project, that we kind of put that under an ad hoc, if it doesn't go under committee 1, 2, or 3, if all those committees are?
I mean, I'm not that strongly opposed to having ad hocs, but I just thought that the I-card, I mean, I just put in my head more importance on.
It sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Committee 3 would still consist of Carl, Bill, and Josh, but that it sounds like you're altering the Special and Transportation Committee to have Bill acting as the chair, and then it would also include Josh, Thomasina, Carl, and David.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And so you would need to appoint, and then if a fourth committee was ever needed, it would be done on an ad hoc basis. But that the other 3 committees would still be standing. And what we could do, Madam Chair, is actually you could at this time, you could take Committee 3, since now, unless Carl and Bill completely disagree with this, you could take the use matrix away from Committee 3 and give that to Committee 2. And then what that would do is, because those individuals in Committee 3 are all operating, I mean, except for Thomasina, everybody in Committee 3 will be operating under this special committee. So would you take the use matrix study and put it under Committee 2? We'll identify and appoint this special committee for the I-85 plan, and then anything else would just be done on an ad hoc basis.
Well, let's ask Carl how he feels about, and Bill, on the use matrix.
Carl's fine. Are we about ready to wrap up use matrix? I mean,
We are. I mean, I'm
the ball's
still.
in your court,
Yeah, the ball's.
in that last time.
We're still making. We're still updating the actual matrix itself and filling it out. So basically, it would entail bringing that finished work to Committee 2 or 3, and then having you all review that over a certain period of time, and then make a recommendation to the full board.
Well, let me
But
ask you
what-
this. I think that leaving it as Committee 3, because those people are already on there, we're very close to finishing it,
We are.
and then we don't sort of change horses in the middle of the stream. So I think I like just leaving them under there.
Okay.
You're doing your work. They're going to be now focusing on the I-85 corridor, which is going to be under Special and Transportation Committee, and then we leave everybody where they are.
Other than the special committee would now consist of Bill, Josh, Thomasina, Carl, and David.
Right.
Okay.
And what I was, and because we're kind of putting extra people on that committee, that we move Will and Herman, since they aren't here today, and this is new, nobody's seen it, and move them to, like, where there's a vacant spot under Committee 3, one of them under that.
Well, I mean, we will always have a vacant spot
Okay.
until that 12th planning board member gets appointed. So,
Well, aren't we saying that we can't have more than 5 people?
right, right. You would need to
So-
do something with
Right.
Will and Herman.
So I think let's put either Will or Herman under Committee 3. And I don't know if you have a perspective of which one would match up with that committee work.
What I would recommend is, what I try to do when I'm working on this is I try to avoid having too much overlap with the chairs and vice chairs. In other words, if Committee 2 is doing some work and Ben can't be there, Herman will need to chair that meeting. And since Will's not currently a chair or vice chair, let's put Will under Committee 3.
Okay.
Does that
would
make
be good.
sense?
That makes sense.
Okay.
Okay. That's-
And I guess one of my questions would be, how many people do you have left on Committee 3, which was Use Matrix, right?
Or still is now.
It
Still is.
now.
Okay, that are familiar with it, because see, I was Use Matrix. And I'm sort of trying to wonder if we shouldn't keep the people who were already on that committee, maybe if nothing else, just to finish out
Just
the
to
work
wrap it
of,
up.
yeah, of Use
That's a
Matrix,
good
not,
point,
not necessarily to move me one way or the other, but if I shouldn't stay Use Matrix until we wrap it up.
Yeah, in
I
other
like
words,
that.
these would still be the assignments.
Right.
But that you would continue your work on Committee 3 just
Okay.
to finish that project.
That makes a little more sense to me.
So, okay.
That makes sense.
I think I like
Okay.
that very
Okay.
much.
We can still do the
Very
move,
good
though.
point.
I mean, we
Okay.
can still do the move, and then and then you would still be the new chair of Committee 1.
Okay, but I'd just still continue to meet with Use Matrix until we wrapped it up.
Right.
Okay.
And so now, Madam Chair, would you appoint a vice chair, somebody who, in Bill's absence, would be able to run that committee, the Special 85 Committee of Josh, Thomasina, Carl, and David?
Okay, I would like to ask Carl if you would be willing to be vice chair of this committee. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
So we now have all the committees.
Yes, and
And you'll do a update and
I'm
send
going
it
to post
out?
your website, yes, and I'm going to
Okay.
clean up your website, and I'm going to update with all of Josh's information and everything,
Okay.
so.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Under other board business, we have gone over the committee assignments. Are there any other business from any board members? Staff, do you have any other business?
I have 3 things, if you don't mind. Did you already pass out Diana placed at your seat on the dais a copy of this was really fascinating, and it was emailed to me today at about 2 o'clock, so it's late breaking. David Daddio is a master's candidate at UNC Chapel Hill, and he did a research project, and this paper here is the result of his research project on sidewalk programs and pay in lieu programs throughout the state of North Carolina. It just so happens that there are 5 communities, cities particularly, that throughout the state of North Carolina that have a sidewalk program or pay in lieu program. The 2 most comprehensive programs in the state are ours and the city of Asheville, and so it was quite fascinating. And you'll see the comparison between our program and Asheville's program. The other cities were, I believe, Conover, Shallot, and I can't remember the other one, but.
That's Shallotte.
Is it Shallotte? Thank you. I was asking everybody in my office. I didn't know.
From around here, are you?
No, I'm not from around here. So everybody on Access 16 will enjoy that one too.
Well,
will,
don't
yeah.
feel bad. because
Shallotte.
I
Thank
have
you.
people always saying Salisbury,
Yes.
who are new
Oh,
clients
yeah.
into town. So
Yeah.
it's all about where you're from.
Oh yeah, and I mean I had to learn Hoorah Street, and
Right,
I even had to learn how to say Rowan.
right.
So yeah, I understand. Okay,
Say
thank
Rowan.
you, and hopefully everybody gets a good laugh out of that. So yes, it was really fascinating, and touches on many of the things that we discussed in the writing of the LDO, that also touches on a lot of the hard work that this board did. Some of you were on the board then when the sidewalk program was drafted and we came up with the pay in lieu and using the SPI. And then also many of our goals, objectives, and policies in the Vision 2020 plan. So check it out. The other thing I wanted to note is that now that the board, now that we have started our 2012-2013 year, we still have one seat that needs to be filled on the planning board, one ETJ spot, and the city manager and Joe Morris, the planning director, are working hard on trying, as well as the council, trying to find somebody to fill that spot. We certainly appreciate Josh's willingness to serve, and that was great to find him in the ETJ. But what I'd like to do, and I've talked to Eleni Hasselman, who is the city's PIO, I guess is technically her but she also works with Jason Parks in our production, television production and video production. And what I'd like to do is come up with a planning board training video that we basically can reuse every year. One of the things that I feel like where I haven't provided the best that I can to you all is that the training is it's never held at the same time every year. B, it's different information. You know, it depends on our workload as to how comprehensive it is, and that's not fair to you. And so, for your all's benefit, and for new members, and even for older members, I'm going to work with Eleni and with Jason to come up with a video that will be scripted, comprehensive, and one that we could provide here at the planning board meeting or at a committee meeting or just at a general training session up in the conference room, but one that we can use over and over. So I wanted to let you know that we are working on that. The other is some of you may or may not be aware that Westgate Commons, the apartment project on Brenner Avenue, was approved at the last city council meeting. So Judd Little he's very excited, but got his fingers crossed that he will receive the funding from the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. But he also knows that he's in competition with another project that has been submitted called Sterling Trace. Sterling Trace is going to, they've already gone to the TRC. They will be coming to the first May planning board meeting. That would be an 80-unit multifamily development behind Bank of North Carolina, behind Katana, in that 6-7 acre rectangular tract behind Bank of North Carolina, in between Jake and Salisbury Village Apartments. So, so there's a little bit of competition there for those dollars. So that will be coming forward as well.
And they won't approve both?
I found out from, this has been a real education in terms of how the housing finance dollars work. We will either get neither project or we'll get one. So yes, you cannot get both. And as it turns out too, some of you who were on the board back then, there was another multifamily, a smaller scale multifamily project that was a single building that was going to be constructed on Lincolnton Road, on the other side of Jake, not on the Fulton Heights side, but on the other side as you go past the Walgreens. There is a site that was cleared a number of years back, probably about 10 years ago, and there was a nice multifamily development proposed there. I believe that was age restricted.
Last year or the year before, I can't remember.
I think it was the year before.
Yeah.
Right. And they didn't receive the funding then, so they're back. I didn't know that they could use their same site plan and just, I guess, keep applying. And so now, from what I understand, they've scored pretty high, and they're back in the running too. So we'll see.
I guess the question would be if Judd Little or whoever you just named did not get the funds from the housing people, could they get funds from someplace else?
Possibly, but that would, that's certainly going to be a private matter that we would never know about. And I believe that was it from us. Thank you.
Okay. If there's no other business from the board or staff, then we will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.